The city park was calm in the late afternoon. Sunlight came through the trees and made the ground look warm and soft. Daniel Reeves sat on a bench near the path, keeping one eye on his daughter and one hand on his watch. He had cleared his calendar for the day. He did it because he wanted to be fully present for Lila. She sat a few steps away in her wheelchair, a light blanket over her knees, finishing gentle stretches with her therapist. Her hair was tied in a neat ponytail. Her face was careful, the way it often was now, as if every expression needed permission to appear. Daniel tried to keep his breathing slow. He had learned that calm is a gift he could give to her. When the therapist packed up her bag, she gave Lila a friendly nod and told her to rest. "Great job today," she said softly. "You stayed focused the whole time." Lila gave a small smile, and the therapist walked down the path toward the parking lot. Daniel rose to help, but Lila shook her head and pointed to the pond. She wanted to stay a little longer. He smiled and sat back down. "All right, kiddo. 10 minutes, he said. He reached into a paper bag and pulled out 2 small apples. He washed one with a napkin and handed it to her. She held it with care, as if it were a tiny planet in her hands. That was when the music started. It was soft, like a whisper from a radio that was almost too far away to hear. Daniel turned his head. Near the fountain, a teen girl in a simple t-shirt and sneakers pressed play on her phone and slipped it into her pocket. She closed her eyes for a second, as if saying hello to the song, and then she began to move. Her steps were light and smooth. Her arms drew shapes in the air. The sun caught the edges of her hands, and her whole body told a story without a single word. She seemed at ease, like the music and the air were old friends. Lila's attention drifted from the apple to the dancer. Her eyes grew wide with interest. She leaned forward a little. Her hands made a small, uncertain shape, as if her fingers wanted to remember something they once knew. Daniel watched the change in her face. He had seen hundreds of professionals try to spark this kind of engagement. But this was different. This was not a scheduled exercise. This was curiosity coming to life on its own. A security guard passing by slowed when he noticed the dancer. He looked toward Daniel, waiting for a clue about what to do. Sometimes people forgot that parks are for everyone. Daniel lifted a hand and gave a gentle wave, a quiet signal. "Everything is fine." The guard nodded and walked on. Daniel stood and moved closer to Lila, careful not to block her view. "You like the music?" he asked. Lila nodded once, her ponytail bobbing. Her fingers tapped a shy rhythm on her blanket. The dancer, whose name they didn't yet know, opened her eyes and noticed the small audience. She didn't stop. She softened her steps and moved into a slow pattern. She swept her hands in a circle, then traced a simple line near her chest, like drawing a horizon. She lowered herself so she was closer to Lila's eye level, still a few steps away, and gave a friendly smile to show she was happy to share the space. The music kept playing. The moment felt kind and open, with no pressure, no stage, no plan, just people in a park sharing a song. Lila tried to copy the small circle with her own hands. Her movement was tiny but important. Her fingers quivered, then found a shape. She looked up at her father, unsure. Daniel nodded with warm eyes. "That's beautiful," he said. The dancer heard his voice and slowed even more. She lifted her hands again and made a new, easy pattern. 2 taps to the shoulder, gentle press over the heart, and a wave outward. It was like saying, "Here I am, here you are. We meet in the middle." Lila watched closely. She mirrored the taps. She pressed her palms to her chest. The wave out was shaky at first, then steadier. Her smile, small and bright, came through like dawn. The dancer took a step closer and knelt so that she and Lila were face to face. "Hi," she said in a quiet voice that could still be heard over the water and birds. "I'm Amara." She did not reach out to touch. She only put one palm on her own chest again, repeating the tiny sequence with a gentle rhythm. The music played on her phone, but the world seemed even softer than the sound. Lila pointed to herself and said, "Lila," then glanced at her father. "I'm her dad," Daniel said. "I'm Daniel. Thank you for this." His words came out heavier than he meant, carrying months of worry and hope. Amara nodded. "It's a good song," she said, like that was enough reason to be here. She turned the volume down a little more and looked back to Lila. "Want to learn a little hand dance? We can do it seated, only if you want. We go slow." Lila looked at Daniel. He didn't answer for her. He let her decide. She nodded again, more firmly this time. Amara smiled and began to break the pattern into small steps. "2 taps on the shoulders," she said, tapping lightly on her own. "Then 1 press over the heart. Then wave out. Now breathe in and out, like a tide." They practiced for a few minutes. Lila's arms were careful. Sometimes she paused to rest. Amara always waited. She did not rush the beat. She counted slowly, and when Lila needed time, she simply let the music loop and kept her eyes kind. Daniel watched his daughter come forward, into the moment. Her neck looked taller. Her eyes were less guarded. She laughed once when her wave-out went the wrong way, and then she tried again. The sound of her laugh filled Daniel with a feeling he could not name. It felt like a door opening in a house he thought was sealed. A breeze moved across the pond, and the apple rolled off Lila's lap onto the grass. Amara picked it up, brushed it off, and placed it carefully back on the blanket. "We can add a little rhythm to it," she said. "What's your favorite kind of music?" Lila thought very hard. "Piano," she said. "And drums, soft beats." Amara nodded. "We can find that." She showed a tiny percussion pattern made with the fingers. Lila tried it. Her fingers took a second to catch the timing, and then she found it. A little beat that belonged to her. After a while, Amara stood and took a step back to give Lila space to move without pressure. Daniel noticed how gently she managed the distance, close enough to guide, far enough to respect. He felt a swelling gratitude for a teen he had never met before today. He also felt a pinch of regret for all the times he had tried to fix everything, with money or speed. This moment did not need either. It needed patience and presence. They finished the small sequence and paused. Lila lifted both hands in the air, her version of a happy cheer. "Again tomorrow?" she asked, surprising herself. Daniel blinked. The question warmed him. He looked at Amara. She was smiling, but also thinking. He could see a lot moving behind her eyes: school, family, schedule, bus routes, the cost of time. "I would love to," Amara said, "but I need to check when I can be here. I help my mom in the evenings and I have practice some days. Maybe we can find a time that works for everyone." Daniel nodded. "We actually have a small studio at our home," he said gently, careful with the words. "It's quiet. It has a good floor and a speaker. Lila does some of her therapy there. If you ever felt comfortable coming by, we could cover transport. And we would make sure it's safe and simple. There would be no pressure, just music and a little movement. Only if you want." He worried he had said too much. He knew how it could sound coming from him. He did not want to turn a kind moment into a heavy one, Amara considered. She did not look impressed by the idea of a private studio, but she did look interested in Lila's face. "I like the idea of a quiet place," she said. "Only if she wants it. And only if it stays about her." She turned to Lila. "Do you want to try? We can make more seated moves. We can go super slow and make our own dance." Lila took a breath and then nodded. "I want to try," she said in a small but steady voice. They exchanged phone numbers. Daniel shared the address and suggested a time that did not conflict with Lila's therapy. "We can do weekend afternoons," he said. 2 o'clock? We can send a car for you, or I can meet you at the park and we can ride together. Whatever feels safest." Amara texted him a thumbs-up emoji and wrote, "Will confirm after I check at home." Then she crouched near Lila again and repeated the tiny hand sequence one more time, counting softly. 2 taps, 1 press, wave out, your dance, your pace. As the music ended, the park sounds returned to the front. A dog barked, a child laughed, and a jogger ran by with quick feet. Lila looked calmer and brighter at the same time. She rested back in her chair with the good kind of tired. "Thank you," she said to Amara. "I like the wave." Amara pointed to her heart. "Me too," she said. "It's like saying hello to yourself." She stood and tucked her phone away. They said goodbye. Amara walked down the path toward the bus stop, her steps light and unhurried. Daniel watched her go, then turned to his daughter. "You were amazing," he said. "You tried something new." Lila looked at her hands. "It felt like the music made room for me," she said, searching for the right words. "Like I didn't have to hurry to join it. It waited." Daniel swallowed against the tightness in his throat. "That's a beautiful way to say it," he said. On the drive home, the city moved by in gentle shapes. Lila looked out the window and tapped the tiny rhythm on her armrest. The late sun made soft patterns on her blanket. Daniel kept the radio off. He let the quiet be a kind of music, too. He thought about how many times he had tried to plan hope, to force it onto a schedule, to buy it like a service. Today, hope had arrived like a song in a park, asking nothing but a tent. Saturday came with slow sunshine and a mild breeze. At exactly 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang at the Reeves home. Daniel checked the front camera, then opened the door with a smile that tried not to look too eager. Amara stood there with a small backpack, her phone in her hand, and a worn dance shoe bag looped over one shoulder. She looked calm but alert, the way a person looks when they step into a new space and want to get it right. "Welcome," Daniel said, stepping aside. "The ramp is just to your left. Thank you for coming." "Thank you for the invite," Amara answered. "Is Lila ready, or should I give you both a moment first?" "She's been ready since breakfast," Daniel said, soft humor in his voice. "She's in the studio. Would you like water or tea?" "Water would be great," Amara said. She followed him down the hall, noticing the quiet details. Wide doors, smooth floors, low light that didn't glare. The house felt careful in a kind way, as if someone had walked through every room and asked how to make it easier to move and breathe. They reached the studio. Lila waited near the mirror with her blanket folded at her side. Her hair clip sparkled a little when she turned her head. She lifted her hands in a shy wave and laughed at her own literal wave. "Hi," she said. "Hi," Amara replied, setting, her bag down by the wall. "Are you ready for a hand dance team-up?" "Team-up," Lila repeated, liking the sound of it. Daniel brought water for both of them, then took a seat a few steps away. He wanted to be present without being the center of the room. He had learned that attention was like stage light. If he set it too bright on himself, no one else could see. Amara began with something familiar. "Let's warm up with our hello pattern," she said. 2 taps, 1 press, wave out, easy, breathing. No rush. They did it together. Lila's taps were more steady than in the park. She counted softly, not with numbers, but with a steady rhythm. Tap, tap, press, wave. After 3 rounds, she added the tiny twist she had invented that first night. Amara noticed and nodded. "That twist is your signature," she said. "We'll give it a name. Maybe Lila's Star." Lila sat taller. Daniel saw the change at once. Her shoulders opened, her chin lifted, and an energy he knew well but had missed lately returned to her face. He did not interrupt. He let the small movement carry its own power. Amara introduced the first new move. "We'll call this one River Hands," she said. "We let the hands float from the heart to the sides, like water finding an easy path, no sharp corners, just a smooth flow." She demonstrated, then shaped the move for a seated position, showing how to place the elbows in a way that did not strain the shoulders. She checked in often. "How does that feel? Any pinch? Any tiredness?" "It feels like the air is soft," Lila said. "I can let my hands ride on it." "That's perfect," Amara said. "When the air feels soft, we're moving right." She offered a tiny rest break after each sequence. She had learned from her own practice that rest is part of the dance, not an interruption of it. They tried a second move, window frame, a simple opening and closing of the hands that could be done at chest height without lifting the arms too high. Lila liked the click of it, even though there was no actual click, only the feeling of a shape completing itself. They joined hello, river hands, and window frame into one short phrase. Then they stopped and drank water. Daniel looked at the wall clock and felt surprised. He would have guessed 10 minutes had passed, but it had been 35. Time felt different in this room. It had a gentle speed, a human speed, not the speed of meetings and flights. Midway through the session, Lila's therapist, Mara, arrived to observe. She had been invited earlier, with Lila's permission. Mara stood by the door and watched with a professional eye that was also warm. After a few minutes, she stepped closer and spoke quietly with Amara during a break. "I love that. You check her shoulder alignment," Mara said. "Can I show you a comfortable arm position that supports the shoulder blade when she gets tired? It will help her keep that easy look you're building." "Yes, please," Amara replied. "I want to keep it safe and comfortable." They adjusted the chair and added a small rolled towel behind Lila's right elbow to give it a little lift. Lila tested the next river hands with the towel and nodded. "This helps," she said. "I can keep it smooth." They returned to practice. Amara kept the music gentle, soft piano with a steady beat under it. When a faster track came up by accident, she watched Lila's face and saw a tiny frown. She switched back without comment. She was learning to read the room in new ways, at the end of the first hour, Lila had a 3-part phrase that felt like hers. She wanted to try it once more. Amara stood beside her, counting softly. Daniel tapped his knee and smiled. Lila finished with her star twist and made a small cheer with both hands in the air. "Again tomorrow?" she asked, echoing her own words from the park. "We can make a plan," Amara said. "How about we try for 2 times a week to start? We can add more later, and we'll do 1 new move each time. 1 new move a day is a big promise, but 2 times a week is steady and strong." Lila agreed. Daniel checked his calendar in his head and moved things around without regret. He had been moving mountains for years. Moving 2 hours would be easy if he kept his priorities straight. Over the next 2 weeks, they built small, beautiful routines. They added a move called lantern, where the hands made a soft circle that opened at the top, like sharing light. They added feather, a slow flutter that rested when it needed to. Some days Lila had more energy. Other days, she had less. Amara adjusted without judgment. The rule was simple. The dance belonged to Lila, not to the clock. Mara tracked changes. She noted that Lila sat a little longer without stiffening. Her posture improved. Her breath stayed even through the phrases. She seemed to anticipate the next move with her eyes and hands, which showed deeper engagement. After one session, Mara pulled Daniel aside. "She's finding her own timing," she said. "That's huge. It means she isn't just copying, she's initiating." Daniel felt a careful happiness. He had learned not to chase results like trophies, but he couldn't deny the glow that came with this news. That night, Lila asked to play the soft piano track during dinner. They ate while the music filled the room like easy conversation. During the third week, Daniel's assistant, Renee, asked if they could record a short video to send to Lila's grandparents, who lived in another city. "Only if everyone is comfortable," she said. "Just hands in the top of the blanket, no faces. We can keep it private." Amara looked to Lila. "What do you think?" she asked. "If you say no, that's okay. If you say yes, we set rules." Lila thought for a full minute. "I want Nana to see Lantern," she said. "She will like the light." So they made rules written on a whiteboard. No faces, short clip, only share with family, ask before any share. Daniel set the camera behind Lila, angled low so it captured only hands, blanket, and the soft arc of Lantern. They did one take. It was simple and real. They sent it to Nana with a note. Nana called within the hour, happy tears in her voice. "It looks like she's painting the air," she said. Lila smiled so hard her cheeks hurt. Painting the air became a favorite phrase in the house. Word spread gently among close friends. A few asked if they could show the clip to other parents who had children with mobility challenges. Lila looked at Amara. Amara looked at Lila. "We can say yes to a few people," Amara said. "But we keep the rules, hands only. No pressure, sa." The fourth week, Daniel got a message from his company's internal family group, a request to share the clip on the company's private social network to support inclusive activities. He brought the idea to the studio, not as a pitch but as a question. "We can say no," he said. "We can keep this just ours. We can also say yes with clear limits." Amara thought about safety and dignity. "If we do it," she said, "we add context. A short caption that says what this is. A teen teaching seated dance with respect, a dad supporting without pushing, a child leading the pace. We also say clearly that every child is different, and progress is not a race." Lila's eyes went to the mirror. She watched her hands rise in the lantern shape and lower again. "I want people to see that they can try," she said. "Not to get likes, just to try." They agreed on a 30-second clip with a plain caption. "Seated dance with our favorite move, Lantern. We go slow. We follow Lila's pace. Every child is different. This is her dance." They posted it to the private group. It was meant to be quiet. It didn't stay quiet for long. People who saw it asked to share it with a friend in a parent group. A children's therapist shared it with a small network, praising the gentle pacing. Then somehow it reached a wider circle. The clip appeared on a large parenting page, still cropped to show only hands and blanket, still with the careful caption. Comments filled with simple thanks. Families wrote that they were trying river hands at home that night. A teacher asked how to start a seated movement circle in a classroom. The clip traveled because it offered something useful and kind. Daniel felt protective and a little nervous. He had seen how fast the internet could turn a private moment into a public thing. He asked Renee to watch the shares and make sure the original caption stayed with the clip. Amara turned off her notifications for a day and focused on the next session. She smiled at the good messages, but she kept her feet on the ground. "We still have practice at 2, she told herself. "The dance is here in tea." The meeting took place in the Reeves home, not at a hotel or a big office. Daniel chose the home studio on purpose. He wanted Lila to feel safe, and he wanted everyone to remember why they were here. The room was quiet and bright. The floor was smooth. A small speaker sat on a shelf. A whiteboard leaned against the wall with the words, "Your pace," written in a neat hand from the last session. 2 people from Daniel's company arrived first. They were from the public relations team. They carried a slim laptop and a folder of printed pages. They smiled warmly at Lila and said hello in gentle voices. A third person came with them, a community partnerships manager named Suri, who looked like she preferred listening to talking. Amara came with her small backpack and the same calm alertness she always had. Lila rested in her chair with her blanket folded on her lap. Mara, the therapist, sat near the window, ready to answer any safety questions. "Thank you for coming," Daniel said, keeping the tone soft. "We received a gala invitation. Before we do anything, I want us to talk together." The PR lead opened the laptop and clicked to a slide with big clean letters. "A Night of Hope." The images showed a stage with soft lights and a simple backdrop. There were mock-ups of a father and daughter on stage, silhouettes only. The room had a hush as the presenter spoke. "Our idea is a short, beautiful moment," she said. Father and daughter seated together. Soft music. A voiceover about inclusion. The audience will feel connected to a caring story. We'll raise money for good programs. We'll also propose a multi-city event later, small and tasteful, to keep support strong. We can offer transport vouchers for families who want to attend. We can invite therapists to consult. She clicked another slide. It showed a logo in the corner of the stage. "We'll keep branding minimal," she said. "Just a quiet mark at the edge so donors know who made it possible." Amara listened with steady eyes. She did not nod. She did not frown. She watched for small details, like where the chairs were on the stage, how bright the lights looked, where people would enter and exit. She noticed that the mock-up showed the chairs elevated above the floor. She wrote down one word on a sticky note: level. The second PR person spoke next. "We can share a short video afterward," he said. "It will celebrate the moment and invite people to follow the journey. We can include a link to a donation page. It will help the story travel." Suri, the partnerships manager, looked at Amara and then at Lila. "I'd like to hear your thoughts first," she said quietly. "What does a good night look like to you?" Amara took a breath. She did not rush into a reply. She turned her sticky note over in her fingers. "Thank you for asking," she said. "I have questions. Who is the night for? Is it for donors to feel moved? Is it for a company to be seen? Or is it for children and families to gain something that lasts longer than one event?" The room was still. Daniel folded his hands and kept his eyes on the table so Amara could speak without feeling watched too closely. Amara continued, still calm. The short clip that traveled wasn't planned. It wasn't a show. It worked because it was simple, slow, and true. It showed a child leading her own pace, and a room that respected that pace. It did not center a logo. It did not ask for applause. It offered an idea people could try at home. That's why it helped. She set her sticky note on the table and looked at the slides again. "I hear your good intentions. I also see stage, lights, a schedule, and a story that may become more about a moment than about a movement. I want something different." Suri leaned forward. "Tell us," she said. Amara spoke in the same clear voice she used when teaching a small child anew. "Move! I am in my last year of high school. I work a part-time job. I help my mom with my 2 younger siblings. I practice dance because it keeps me steady. I teach because teaching opens doors. If I ask for something today, I could ask for a personal contract or a scholarship. Those things would help me. But that is not the change I want." She looked at Lila. "I want a place where many children like Lila can move at their own pace, near their own homes. I want a place that is open after school, on weekends, and during school breaks. I want a place that is built for all kinds of bodies and all kinds of minds. I want an inclusive community dance and movement center in my neighborhood." The PR team went very still. Daniel did not move. Lila's eyes brightened as if she could already see the space. Amara kept going, gently and firmly. It would need wide doors, ramps, and safe floors. It would need quiet rooms for breaks. It would need soft lights and sound that can be turned down easily. It would need therapists to partner with teachers so the moves stay safe. It should hire local teachers and also bring in wheelchair dance coaches when needed. It should offer sliding scale fees with many full scholarships. It should organize free transport routes on weekends, not just coupons, because some families cannot work with coupons. It should have a small parent support circle with tea and chairs so adults can talk while children practice. It should train teen assistants from the neighborhood and pay them fairly. She paused to let the picture settle. Then she added something that made everyone straighten in their seats. It should not have a big donor name on the front. The words were simple, not loud, and they changed the air in the room. The PR lead glanced at Daniel, then back at Amara. "No naming?" she said softly, surprised. "Most centers do carry a donor name." Amara nodded. "I know, but I am asking for something else. The front can say, 'From people who believe in you,' or 'Community Dance and Movement Center.' The message should be that the place belongs to the children and the community. If there must be a donor list, put it on a small wall inside, with all names in the same size, or keep it anonymous. The center is not a sign. It is a promise." Suri took notes as fast as she could, her handwriting neat and focused. Mara, the therapist, had a quiet smile and eyes that looked a little shiny. Amara continued, steady as a metronome. "Build a community board to guide it. Not a board of only executives. A board of parents, local teachers, therapists, and 1 or 2 teens. Publish simple outcomes every few months. How many families came, how people felt, what changes were made after listening sessions. Not just how many views a video got. Real outcomes, attendance, comfort, confidence. Invite the community to help make the schedule. Keep the doors open, not just for a season, but for years. That is the kind of story I want to tell." The PR lead found her voice. It was softer now. "And the gala?" she asked. "What would you want for that night, if there must be a night?" Amara said. "Make it a circle, not a stage. Chairs on the same level for everyone. Soft lighting, no bright spotlights on a child. Begin with a 5-minute panel, not a performance, a conversation with a parent, a therapist, and a teacher about inclusive movement. After that, invite the room to try one seated move together. 2 taps, 1 press, wave out. Let donors feel what it means to go slow and to follow a pace that is not theirs. No close-up cameras on any child. No dramatic voiceover. Keep the words plain. Keep the attention on the idea, not on a single family. If anyone speaks about giving, they should say, 'We will listen first.'" She looked at Daniel, kind and direct. "I am asking for support that does not put a spotlight on one person. I am asking for support that builds a door many can use. If this is not a fit, I will still teach in the park and in small rooms. I will keep doing the work. But if we do this together, I want it to be the right shape." Silence followed her words. It was not empty. It was full of thought. A bird chirped outside the window. The whiteboard by the wall stood like a witness. "Your pace." Daniel felt something shift inside him. He had been in many rooms where people asked him for big checks and big signs. He had been in fewer rooms where a person asked him to remove his name and make space for others to lead. He looked at Lila. She had her hands folded in her lap, as if holding a small light. He could tell she understood the heart of what Amara had said. He let the quiet stay a little longer. Suri broke it gently. "Can you put your idea in writing?" she asked Amara. "Not a formal plan, just a page that says what the center needs and how it should be guided." Amara pulled a notebook from her bag. She wrote as she spoke, her letters clean and simple. What it would take to help many Lilas. Accessible building. Ramps, wide doors, safe floors, quiet rooms, soft lights, adjustable sound. Program design, seated dance, slow pace, rest breaks, sensory-friendly options. Staff, local teachers, therapist. Partners, wheelchair dance coaches as needed, trained teen assistants, paid. family support, sliding scale fees, many full scholarships, weekend transport routes, parent circles, governance, community board, parents, teachers, therapists, teens, listening sessions, open feedback, transparency, simple reports on attendance, comfort, confidence and changes made, naming and credit, no large donor name on the front, if listed equal-size names, or anonymous. Free library, short-seated movement videos online with plain captions for anyone to use. Safety and privacy, no filming children without consent, never center one child for promotion. Promise, the work is not one night, it is years. She tore the page out carefully and added a small drawing at the bottom. A circle with a tiny glow, her lantern move, made into a symbol. The PR lead took the page like it was something fragile and important. "Thank you," she said. "This is..." "Clear," Mara spoke up from by the window. The working session began on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in the home studio, just as the calendar invite said, "Listen first." Suri arrived with a folder of possible buildings and a calm way of speaking. Mara, the therapist, brought safety notes and a tape measure. Daniel's operations lead, Theo, came with a transit map and blank route sheets. Amara walked in with a notebook full of small sketches, doorways, floor shapes, and little circles labeled "Quiet Room." Lila sat near the window with her blanket folded and her eyes bright, ready to help test ideas as needed. They gathered around the low table. Suri spread out 3 short profiles. "Option 1, she said. An old neighborhood library, empty for 2 years. Beautiful light, strong walls, but there are stairs and narrow bathrooms. Option 2, a corner storefront, ground level, wide windows, near a bus stop. The floor is uneven and it's noisy. Option 3, a small single-story warehouse close to the bakery and a main bus line. Big open space, high ceiling, needs sound treatment, and a better restroom." "Let's go see all 3, Amara said. "We can feel the rooms with our bodies, not just our eyes." Everyone agreed. They set off with tape measures, sticky notes, and a small bag of blue masking tape. The old library was lovely at first. Glance. Sunlight fell through tall windows and made soft squares on the floor. The smell of old paper lingered, warm and kind. But at the entrance, stairs rose like a quiet wall, and the old lift in the corner was out of service. Even if fixed, it would be tight for a large chair. Inside, the bathroom doors were narrow. The turns between stacks were tight. Luis, an accessibility architect Suri had invited, ran his hand along the doorway and measured. "We could widen these," he said. "But we'd also need an exterior ramp and probably a new lift. The city might have rules because the building is historic. We can do it, but it's slow and expensive." Lila tried rolling through a sample path. She could make it, but only by going slowly and adjusting many times. "It feels like I have to ask the room for permission," she said softly. No one argued with that. They all loved the light. They did not love the limits. Suri made a neat note. Beautiful, but tight. The corner storefront had its own charm. It sat on a bright street with trees and a view of people walking dogs. The door was wide enough, and there was only a small rise which a simple ramp could solve. Inside, columns dotted the space like quiet guards. The floor dipped in a few places. Nothing dramatic, but enough to notice. The windows were large and cheerful, but they would need frosting or shades for privacy during class. The bathroom was small and would have to be rebuilt to truly fit a chair. They stood still and listened to the room. Cars passed. A bus stopped and sighed. Music played faintly from a cafe next door. "We can soften sound," Luis said, "but the street will still be present. It could be fine for some groups, hard for others." Amara pictured a child who needed calm. "We would need very good curtains and a quiet back room," she said. Theo checked the bus stop times and made notes anyway. The The storefront was not wrong. It just asked for many small fixes. The third place was the small warehouse. The door was a big roll-up with a level threshold. Inside, the space was wide and simple. One open rectangle with a high ceiling and a few small rooms already built along one wall. It echoed when they talked. A bird's call floated in from somewhere near the roof. The air smelled faintly of wood and dust. Lila rolled in and turned in a full circle without stopping. She smiled. Amara clapped once, quietly, at the simple freedom of the turn. Luis looked up at the ceiling and nodded. "We can hang acoustic panels," he said. "We can float a section of flooring here for the main studio and put a softer surface in a quiet room there. There's space for a family room and a small office. The restroom is close to accessible, and we can make it fully so." The dock door on the side opened to a small lane. Theo smiled at that. "A van can pull right up," he said. "We can secure it and make drop-off easy in any weather." Suri checked the distance to the bus line. 4 minutes, she said. Flat sidewalk. They walked the path a child might take, from door to bench, from bench to studio, from studio to restroom, from studio to quiet room. Amara placed bits of blue tape where doors could be widened or shelves could go lower. She taped a small rectangle where a soft corner might be, a place with low light and a simple chair. The echo was real, but it felt like a solvable echo, not a problem at the core. When they stepped back outside, the close smell of fresh bread drifted from the bakery next door. "That will be a nice surprise for families," Mara said, smiling. They chose the warehouse. It was the right shape for their promise. The landlord was cautious at first and asked about naming rights, photo shoots, and event nights. Daniel kept his voice even. "No naming on the front," he said. "No photo shoots with children. Quiet use, strong care. Long lease, clear rules." Suri added language for community control of the inside walls, privacy film for windows, and flexible hours. The landlord, who had grandchildren and liked the smell of bread nearby, agreed. The next weeks were full of detailed work. Luis drew a clean plan with 2 studios, one large, one small, plus a quiet room, a family room with tables and tea, a small office, storage, and a restroom with space to turn. He marked where the sprung floor would go and where acoustic panels would hang. He drew a line of sight from the main door to a simple welcome desk. No tall counters, no high shelves, nothing that made a person feel like a customer instead of a guest. They held listening circles before they picked paint colors. Parents came on a Saturday afternoon. Tea sat in large thermoses. There were fruit slices and biscuits. Amara set out sticky notes with questions. "What time works for your family? What makes a room feel safe? What needs to be quiet?" The answers were honest and practical. After-school hours from 4 to 6 were good. Saturday mornings were better. Van routes mattered more than coupons. Flyers needed to be in simple language and more than one language. Some families wanted a small space to pray or get quiet. Shoes off was okay if there were slip-on covers for those who needed them. Music should always start lower than you think. Amara listened and wrote. She drew a small sketch of a bench that was not too low and not too high, with space beside it for a chair. She designed a sign that used pictures as well as words, a small hand for rest, a soft circle for quiet, an open palm for welcome. Mara walked the room with Lila and checked heights, sink, shelf, hooks, pegs. "Lower," Lila said more than once, and they lowered. They chose lever handles, not knobs. They marked where braille labels would go and where high-contrast paint could help someone find a door. Not everything went smoothly. The city asked for a second exit path, so Luis adjusted the plan to open a safe back way with a gentle slope and a clear sign. The fire marshal visited and asked for a different kind of alarm. They replaced sharp tones with a chime and a soft, pulsing light. A neighbor worried about parking. Theo drew a pick-up and drop-off plan that used the lane, added a bike rack, and posted clear times to avoid clogging the street. The sprung floor shipment was delayed. Luis found a good temporary marley surface to lay over a smooth base for the first week, with the sprung floor to follow. "We stay flexible," Amara said. "Safety first, shine later." Budget choices came up daily. Daniel wanted to say yes to every good thing, but Amara kept the order clear: access, safety, comfort. They bought sturdy benches, washable mats, simple blinds, and the right chairs for parents. They put off fancy lights and kept the palate calm and warm. A small foundation wrote to offer funds for transport. They accepted and thanked them without adding a plaque. The donor's reply was simple and kind. "We're glad to help. Please keep it about the families." Hiring began. They posted for teachers with experience in gentle movement, seated dance, and patience. They invited local youth to apply for paid PACE leader assistant roles. Interviews happened at a folding table in the future family room. They asked every person the same question: "Tell us about a moment when you slowed down for someone." They spoke about privacy and the rule that there would be no filming without consent and no posting children's faces. They ran background checks and called references. When people arrived for orientation, Amara stood at the front and pointed to the whiteboard where she had written the core line, "Your pace." Media interest grew as the paint dried. A big magazine asked for a glossy feature with names and photos. Daniel wrote back politely and said no. They posted small updates on a simple page instead: a photo of acoustic panels stacked like soft clouds, a short clip of a paint roller, a close shot of a sign that said "Welcome" in big clear letters. The captions were always in plain language. "We're building a room where the music waits for you." People shared the updates because they felt calm and useful, not because they sparkled. Theo and the transport team designed 2 weekend van routes and 1 after-school loop. They did quiet test drives with empty vans, then with a few families. The new driver, Anna, showed how the tie-downs worked and asked if anyone felt uneasy. Lila rode during one test and noticed the ramp was a little slippery in rain. "We can add grip tape," she said. They added it that same afternoon and watched the next test go smoothly, rain and all. Safety practice came next. They did a gentle evacuation with staff and a few volunteer families. The chime was soft, and the morning arrived with clear light and a soft breeze. The bakery next door put fresh loaves on the rack, and a friendly smell drifted along the sidewalk. A small line formed outside the new door. Parents stood with children and siblings, some in wheelchairs, some holding hands, some carrying small backpacks with water and snacks. The sign on the glass said, "Welcome," in big clear letters. Under it, in smaller letters, it said, "Your pace." Anna pulled up the first van and lowered the ramp. She greeted each family by name and checked that every tie-down was comfortable. Theo watched the timing with a small clipboard, not to rush anyone, but to learn when the next loop should begin. Inside the center, Amara took one long look around. The panels above made the room feel calm. The floor was smooth underfoot. The quiet room lamp glowed softly. The family room had tea, water, and simple fruit on a low table. It looked exactly like the drawings in her notebook, except it felt better, because it was real. Daniel opened the door at 10 o'clock and stepped back so families could see the room first. "Welcome," he said in an easy voice. "The studios are on the left. The family room is straight ahead. Please take your time." Lila rolled to the entry and lifted her hands in a small hello. A girl in a blue jacket waved back and smiled. Her brother reached for a biscuit and then, with a tiny nod from his mother, took a second for later. People moved in gentle lines. Suri stood near a small table and handed out simple schedules with drawings. Mara checked the height of the new hooks by the door and smiled when a child easily hung a small bag. Jamal, the teen assistant, showed a parent where the quiet room was and said, "You can go in any time. The door can stay open a little if that's more comfortable. Amara gathered the first group in the large studio. She sat on a low stool, beside Lila. "We will begin together," she said. "2 taps on the shoulders, 1 press over the heart, a small wave out, then we breathe." She demonstrated, then waited. Children copied in their own ways. Some touched their shoulders very softly. Some pressed over the heart and paused as if holding a small light. One boy only did the wave and then rested with his hands on his knees. It was all correct. The room breathed like one slow, kind animal. They tried river hands. Amara showed the shape, then made it smaller for anyone who wanted it small. A girl near the back made tiny river hands beside her cheeks and then smiled at her mother. Window frame came next, simple and satisfying. Lantern followed, and the studio seemed to open with it. Lila rolled forward a little and led the circle with a steady pace. She lifted her hands and opened the small circle at the top like a sunrise. Others followed, each at their own speed. The sound of the music sat low under everything, like a friendly heartbeat. Between phrases, Amara reminded them, "You can rest any time." The quiet room door stayed open a little with a soft wedge. A child went in for 2 minutes and came back with calm eyes. A parent sat in the family room and took a long sip of tea and a long breath, as if she had not had space like this in a while. Daniel stood near the back of the studio and kept his hands in his pockets so he wouldn't clap and change the sound of the room. He watched Lila's shoulders, the way they stayed relaxed and ready. He watched Amara's face, the way she checked the group without pressing. After 40 minutes, they paused for water. A father came up to Amara with his son. "He tried the wave," the father said, voice steady but shiny at the edges. "At home. He keeps his hands close. Today he reached." Amara smiled and said what she had promised to say. "We will keep the room ready for that reach." The father nodded and looked like his own shoulders had lowered by an inch. The second session brought new faces. An older child rolled in with a smart scarf and a serious look. She studied the room like a small inspector. Jamal showed her the smoothest path to the center of the floor and let her lead. When they started the welcome pattern, the girl kept her movements tiny and exact. After 5 minutes, she added a 1/4 inch more to her wave. Her mother saw it and pressed her lips together to hold in a cheer. Later, in the family room, she wrote on a feedback card, "The music did not ask my daughter to hurry. Thank you." Not everyone stayed for long, and that was okay. One boy did 10 minutes, and then rested in the quiet room with a soft toy. A toddler played with the strap of a parent's bag and watched the hands in the studio like they were birds. A teacher from a nearby school stopped by to learn, took notes on the pacing, and asked about bringing a small group on Wednesdays. Suri said, "Let's try a pilot. 3 students at first. We will listen after." At noon, a short circle formed in the family room for anyone who wanted to talk. Amara asked, "What felt good? What can we change?" A parent said, "The door handle is perfect." Another said, "The arrows are easy to follow." A third asked, "Can we have a basket of small towels in the studio?" Suri wrote that down and nodded. Daniel listened and said almost nothing, except to ask, "What time is hardest for transport?" Theo pointed to a route map and showed where an extra van would help on Saturdays. Daniel said, "We'll add it." In the afternoon, a group of older community members visited to see how the room could serve them too. Amara welcomed them and offered a chair movement circle with soft jazz. They laughed when their hands forgot the order of a pattern, then laughed again when they remembered. One man said, "This is good for shoulders and mood." He asked if the group could meet every other week. A reporter came and asked for a tour. Daniel said yes, with 2 rules: no filming children and no names without consent. The reporter kept her notebook closed for a moment and simply watched a class begin. Afterward, she wrote a short piece with a plain title, a room where the Itawa music waits. It ran online that evening. The photo was of the welcome sign and the small plaque inside the door. The caption under the plaque said only, "From people who believe in you." Near the end of the day, the van loop brought one last family. The little boy was tired, and his mother looked like she had carried the day on her back. Jamal knelt to say hello and showed the boy the lantern move with very small hands. The boy lifted his fingers and opened them like a flower. He did it once, then twice, then looked up, surprised at himself. His mother covered her mouth with her hand and closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, she said, "I did not expect that today," Amara said. Sometimes the day saves a small surprise for the end. They closed at 4 o'clock. Staff cleaned slowly, not to erase the day, but to make room for the next. They wiped the floor, folded blankets, and washed cups. They checked the grip tape on the ramp and looked for any scuffs or snags. Lila did one last roll across the studio and back, just because she could. Daniel stood under the acoustic panels and felt a gratitude that was quiet and deep. The first week found a rhythm. Monday and Thursday afternoons filled with after-school groups. Saturday mornings were the busiest. The van routes settled into smooth loops. Anna learned who liked a song on the ride and who liked quiet. She kept a small basket of picture books near the front and a few soft toys in a net pocket. Parents began to greet each other by name. In the family room, someone started a little wall of small victories on sticky notes. Jay tried river hands today. S stayed for 15 minutes. M showed her dad the wave. Amara stepped into a new role with a clear title, Artistic Director. She did not change her shoes or her calm voice. She did make a calendar with the teachers and pace leaders, setting themes for each month. Light, water, windows, stars. She recorded short seated movement videos with plain captions and put them on the center's page. Free for anyone. Each video ended with the same sentence, "Go at your pace. It is your dance." Daniel kept his promise to follow, not lead. He joined a seated sequence beside Lila during a family day, following her cues, not the clock. He also walked into his own offices on Monday mornings and saw them with new eyes. He asked for wider doors in conference rooms, lower counters in the lobby, quieter alarms, and clear signs with both words and pictures. He asked the wellness team to host gentle movement circles at lunch. He asked the transport team to share what they had learned with other groups. When people asked why, he said, "Because dignity is a design choice." The gala team wrote back and accepted the circle, not stage idea. The event, held later that season, began with a 5-minute panel, a parent, a therapist, and a teacher speaking in plain words about inclusion and pace. Then the whole room tried the seated welcome move together. The lights stayed steady and soft. There was no spotlight on any child, and no camera moved in close. People gave to fund scholarships and transport routes, not to fund a show. It felt right. 3 months after opening, the community board met around the round table and looked at simple outcomes. They did not count likes, they counted families. They looked at attendance, comfort, and confidence. They read notes. She asked to come back. He showed a move at home. We stayed the whole time for the first time. They added a Wednesday class in partnership with a local school. They adjusted van times by 10 minutes based on a mother's work shift. They ordered more towels and a second quiet room chair. One afternoon, a woman came and stood under the small plaque inside the door for a long time. Suri noticed and walked over. The woman said, "I have given to many places. My name was often on a wall. This is